the weather forecast with Coloca and its multi-purpose banquet hall, Il Palazzo.
Good evening, beautiful people, and always a pleasure to have you on the weather forecast. Between tonight and tomorrow morning, the weather will be calm in most parts of the country, with still a possibility of isolated rains on the southern border. Temperatures will be as low as 13 degrees in the northwest region, the west and far north regions as low as 14 degrees, and the Adamawa and east regions at 15 degrees, 17 in the center region, and the south region will have temperatures as low as 20 degrees. Next, we take you over to the southwest region, where tonight we have a 0% chance of precipitation, and by morning there would be a possibility of a drizzle in Boya and Limbe. Next, we go over to the littoral region, where tonight we have no chance of rainfall in the region, and by morning we would have the same experience with Kongsamba having the least temperature at 18 degrees. And lastly, in the north region tonight we have a 0% chance of rainfall, and same experience by morning with Cholire having the lowest temperature. I encourage you to take an adventurous trip and go see what the Faro National Park looks like. Thank you for watching and good night.
Coming up tonight, President Paul Biya again begs for peace in the world as he receives New Year wishes from the diplomatic corps and national dignitaries. Disgruntled PhD holders call off their sit-down strike in Yaoundé after a deal in which the recruitment of 250 more PhD lecturers is reached. And Cameroonians await the implementation of the new code on decentralization as a tool to accountability, but doubt the mastery of the law by local officials. The details now. Thanks for watching the 7:30 news on CRTV. I am Moki Edwin Kinzaka in Yaoundé. Close to 800 guests drawn from the 10 regions and grouped under the National Constituted Corps answered present at the Unity Palace today for the presentation of New Year wishes to the President of the Republic, Paul Biya. Peculiar about this segment of the ceremony was the warmth and conviviality that reigned in the hall throughout the ceremony. Staff Lady Nagakebi reports.
At the main banquet hall of the Unity Palace, well decorated with fresh flowers, President Paul Biya was delighted to receive close to 800 guests, representing 34 delegations that made up the National Constituted Corps. It started with the Bureau members of the Senate, led by the first Vice President, Abubakari Abdullahi. This was followed by the Bureau of the National Assembly, with House Speaker Honorable Kavai Yege Jibril leading. Chief Dr. Joseph Dion Gute, the Prime Minister, head of government, led the delegation of members of government, while Ayang Luke was at the head of the Economic and Social Council. Clement Atangana headed the delegation of the members of the Constitutional Council, while Chief Justice Daniel Mekobe Sone was at the head of the Bureau of the Supreme Court. The ruling CPDM party, with Jean Kwete, the Secretary General, led the delegation of CPDM Central Committee members. Next in line were other political parties represented in the National Assembly. Here we had just two members, Honorable Bapoli Bot of the UPC and Bello Buba Maigari of the UNDP. The ninth delegation comprised the heads of different national syndicates, with Isaac Bisagla at the head. Diodone Masigams was at the head of the Anti-Corruption Commission, while Peter Mafani Musonge led the National Commission on Bilingualism and Multiculturalism. Fayengo Francis represented the Disarmament Commission that was coming for this ritual for the very first time. Peter Esoka was at the head of the Bureau of the National Communications Council. The current president of the National Episcopal Conference, His Grace Abraham Kome, led the delegation of religious authorities. The delegation comprising economic operators was another big one, with Christophe Eken at the head. Present in this delegation was CRTV's General Manager Charles Ndongo and other heads of state corporations and parastatals. This was followed by the delegation from the Central Administration of the Ministry of Defense with Minister Joseph Betty Asomo at the head. The delegation of the Joint Army Chief of Staff was led by General Remy Claude Mecca, while General Pierre Semenge led the delegation of retired Army generals. The Minister of State Secretary General at the Presidency of the Republic, Ferdinand Gongo, led the delegation of the General Secretariat of the Presidency of the Republic. From the General Secretariat to the Civil Cabinet, with the Director of the Civil Cabinet, Minister Samuel Mvondo Ayolo, leading this delegation, also comprising members like his Deputy Director, Minister Oswald Babuke, and also Mrs. Abisu Bidum, in charge of special duties at the Civil Cabinet of the Republic. Peter Mafani Musonge, the Grand Chancellor of National Orders, came back with a delegation of the Grand Chancellery, the Supreme State Audit with Minister Rosemba Acha, while Francois Bolvin Wakata headed the Ministerial Department in charge of relations with the National Assembly. At the head of the Ministry of Public Contracts was Minister Ibrahim Talba Mala, while Mbanga Gele, the Delegate General of National Security, was at the head of the Police Corps. The Director of External Research, Leopold Maxime Eko, headed the Directorate of External Research. Luke Sunjong was at the head of the delegation of special advisors. Next on the list of guests was the delegation of roving ambassadors, headed by Roger Miller. The delegation of those who take care of the reserved service of the Presidency of the Republic was headed by Mr. Christophe Fouet, followed by his deputy, Medulu Mengolo. The Special Army Chief of Staff of the Presidency was headed by General Amugu Emmanuel, while the Presidential Security had General Ivo Yengo Denation at the head. Then came the delegation of the Presidential Guard with Colonel Jean-Claude Beko Abanda at the head. And last but not the least was the Department of State Protocol with Minister Simon Pierre Bikele, the director, leading the delegation. The whole ritual of handshakes and smiles went smoothly, with President Paul Biya, strong and relaxed, kept his over 800 guests at home. As if that was not enough, the Chief Executive Paul Biya went around the hall giving directives to some key personalities, especially as council and legislative elections are coming up in February. It was a happy and relaxed atmosphere as the guests left the Unity Palace after the over 2-hour-long ceremony. As the rendezvous was taken for next year, the watch phrase, "Happy New Year, Mr. President," was on every lip.
President Paul Biya has received New Year wishes from members of the diplomatic corps and national dignitaries in a double solemn but convivial atmosphere. The first part of the ceremony took place at the Ambassador's Saloon, during which President Paul Biya and diplomats accredited to him exchanged New Year wishes. Ashu Nyente.
One by one, the diplomats answered the roll call. As it is the tradition, they converge again on the Unity Palace for this year's exchange of New Year wishes with President Paul Biya. The event, wrapped in Republican and diplomatic niceties, unfolded in a relaxed and convivial atmosphere with plenty of soft talk. But solemnity returns when President Paul Biya makes his way to the front of the Ambassador's Saloon. In consonance with Cameroon's diplomatic custom, the first to take to the rostrum is the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, Gabonese Ambassador to Cameroon, Paul Patrick Bifo. On behalf of all the diplomats, the Dean saluted Cameroon's sub-regional and international commitments and its diplomatic strides. The spokesperson of the diplomats commended President Paul Biya for the quality of his governance, his multiple efforts in bringing about a calmer socio-political environment in Cameroon by seeking a resolution to the crisis, especially in the northwest and southwest regions. The diplomatic community represented in Yaoundé expressed the wish that the February 9 elections will be transparent and be conducted in a serene atmosphere. Finally, Paul Patrick Bifo urged Cameroonians to eschew division and to uphold the spirit of dialogue. In their view, Cameroon's diversity should be an asset rather than a factor of discord.
The future resides in a world which understands, a world which accepts itself, and in which cultural, linguistic, and religious diversity constitute a source of enrichment and equity with force of difference. Cameroon, Africa in miniature, seems to be the excellent place for this diversity. The diplomatic corps has faith that Cameroon will remain one and indivisible.
In his response, President Paul Biya recalled the actions he has taken at home and abroad to give Cameroonians a better quality of life. On the international front, the president regretted the absence of international solidarity that is a cause of many human ills, such as terrorism. But he singled out organizations such as the United Nations, the African Union, the Commonwealth of Nations, La Francophonie, and countries such as France that have been quite supportive not only of Cameroon in its difficult moments, but also in helping stem the scourge of terrorism. He once more lampooned unilateralism that is creating global tensions and incessant commercial wars across the globe. He stood out as an advocate of poorer countries, which he said need greater support to embark on infrastructural development that may provide jobs to their youths, lured by extremism. As a solution to many of these global dysfunctions, President Paul Biya has proposed an international conference, what he called the second act of globalization, that will, this time, have a human face. The ceremony wrapped up with handshakes and President Paul Biya having a more direct contact with each of the diplomats.
And this press release from the Presidency of the Republic, Mrs. Chantal Biya, wife of the President of the Republic, will receive 2020 New Year wishes from the wives of members of the Diplomatic Corps and national dignitaries on Friday, 10 January 2020 from 12 noon at the main residence of the Unity Palace. It is signed Samuel Vondo Ayolo, Minister, Director of the Civil Cabinet of the Presidency of the Republic. Presentation ceremony of New Year wishes to Mrs. Chantal Biya, wife of the President of the Republic, and the program is as follows. 10:30 a.m. to 11:45, arrival of the wives of members of the Diplomatic Corps at the Unity Palace. 10:50, end of installation. Midday, presentation of wishes of the wives of members of the Diplomatic Corps, attire, skirt, suit, or traditional ceremonial. Wives of national dignitaries, 10:30 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. Arrival of wives of national dignitaries at the Unity Palace, 12:20 p.m. End of installation. 12:30 p.m. Presentation of wishes of the wives of national dignitaries, attire, suit or skirt suit or traditional ceremonial. 4:30 end of ceremony. And it is noted that mobile phones are not allowed within the premises of the Unity Palace. The Speaker of the National Assembly has also received New Year wishes from members of the law-making institution and from personnel of the 9 departments of the House. The event was void of speeches and characterized by the award of labor medals and distinctions. Esther Kima was there.
It was a solemn ceremony at the courtyard of the National Assembly with the lawmakers, regardless of their political leanings, present to pay allegiance to the House Speaker. Amidst the top officials of the institution and the devoted personnel queued up for the ritual, the Bureau members led by the Senior Deputy Speaker, Honorable Hilarion Etong, took turns to say Happy New Year, the Right Honorable Speaker. The Deputy Speakers, the Questors and Secretaries preceded the Chief Whip of the CPDM Parliamentary Group, Honorable Jean-Bernard Ndongwe Somba, and the party's elected representatives. They were followed closely by the SDF Parliamentary Group with Honorable Paul G. Tumasang at the head of the nearly dozen legislators. The handshakes of the members of the 9th Legislature paved the way for the New Year wishes from the personnel of the Speaker's cabinet, the different departments of the National Assembly, such as the budget and salaries, legislation and linguistics, the accounting services, the African Parliamentary Institute of Yaoundé, and the Speaker's security and protocol. For those due retirement, their endless efforts at the service of the institution were acknowledged with certificates and medals of honor. Meanwhile, some 30 personnel still in active service were decorated on merit.
I'm filled with joy, and I thank the Right Honourable Speaker for recognizing me after all these years. It's encouraging.
I feel so delighted, and I thank God because He has made the President of the Republic to recognize the hard work that I've been doing, and I promise that I'll keep working harder.
For the recipients, the recognition is an admonition for hard work.
I'm very, very excited for this wonderful day in my life. I promise to continue working like this, so I can many more medals in the nearest future.
I promise to work harder for the growth of the institution where I work, the National Assembly, and also the Republic of Cameroon.
The 2020 New Year wishes ceremony to the House Speaker draws its curtains, with family and friends rejoicing on the achievements of 2019.
350 JANAM officers expected to ensure the smooth conduct of the February 19 elections all over the Northwest region have arrived in Bamenda. Welcoming the law enforcement officers, Northwest Governor Adolphe Lille-Afrique requested them to be at the service of the people. Eric Langma-Wufo reports.
The 350 gendarmes arrived on board 16 trucks after covering a distance of over 370 kilometers from Yaoundé to Bamenda. They chanted patriotic songs promising to defend Cameroon and its territorial integrity. There are no new recruits, as some have been deployed to the Northwest region before. Here at the Esplanade of the Northwest Gendarmerie Legion, they are received by Governor Adolphe Lille-Afrique and 6 other senior divisional officers of the region. Governor Adolphe Lille-Afrique tells them to be disciplined and to be at the service of the people of the Northwest region who are in dire need of peace. He instructs them to carry out acts of appeasing the population. The Northwest Gendarmerie Legion Commander Ken Kwamala Valer told the media that they are to be deployed to all the 34 subdivisions of the Northwest region, and they are to ensure the smooth conduct of the February 9th 20 elections.
The population of the Northwest region has been called upon to emulate the example of Babawan, Balikumbat and other communities that have said no to the threats of separatist fighters. This was during a ceremony to distribute motorbikes and other security gadgets to vigilante groups in that part of the country. The ceremony was chaired by Northwest Governor Adolphe Lille-Afrique, who equally calls on the different communities to collaborate with the security forces in a move to restore peace in the restive region. Mercy Kusi reports.
The resistance put up against separatist fighters in Babungo, Balikumbat and Bamising in the Gok-Ketunjia division of the Northwest region is what Governor Adolphe Lille-Afrique said should be emulated by the entire population of the region. He has handed over 42 motorbikes, helmets, megaphones, whistles and other security equipment to the 7 senior divisional officers of the Northwest, which he said are from the head of state to support vigilante groups in the different communities of the region.
The head of state told us in his message to the nation the 31st of December, promising the people that he will neglect nothing to secure the nation and foremost our regions. And for that, he have not only sent reinforcement to the security services, but he has also supplied the population through the vigilante group with key equipment that will help them perform their duty all over the Northwest region.
Governor Lille-Afrique says the security situation in the Northwest has greatly improved and has expressed hope that more and more communities in the region would collaborate with the defense and security forces in efforts towards restoring normalcy.
Some internally displaced students from the Northwest region and Southwest duly registered in schools across the Bambutus division have received school material offered to them by the Minister of Secondary Education, Nalova Lyonga. The ceremony at the Esplanade of GBHS Buddha was chaired by the Senior Division, or the Delegate for Secondary Education. Kelvin Nembo reports from Bafusam.
The over 4,000 beneficiaries are from 28 selected schools in the Bambutus division who lack school needs because of financial hardship as their parents fled violence in the rested Northwest and Southwest regions, leaving behind almost all their belongings. And education being one of the most important human rights that must be respected, Minesec boss, Professor Pauline Nalova Lyonga, who is more than ever determined to promote quality education for all and at all times, donated some 1,800 textbooks, 1,300 pens, 637 pencils, over 200 ledgers of 300 pages each, amongst others.
I am very happy with the issue, and we ask the minister to continue helping these students because some of them are really in dire need of support. And since he's doing like that, at least it will bolster the education of this division and even that of my school.
On the occasion, the Bambutus Divisional Delegate for Secondary Education enjoined the students to make good use of the donations.
I'm calling down students to use very well that textbook.
And given that the school needs could not all be distributed on the occasion, marked by a series of stage performances, the divisional delegate assured other beneficiaries that the distribution exercise will continue in their schools.
The Minister of Secondary Education has renewed its partnership with the humanitarian NGO Shumas. The NGO has built schools, provided scholarships and solar energy throughout the country. Beatrice Losamba reports.
Through this deal, the Ministry of Secondary Education renews its partnership with the non-governmental organization Shumas in providing appropriate school infrastructure for the country's schooling citizens.
When you are working within the clear judicial frame, it encourages you, and you know that the ministry formally is behind you. We have done a lot, this partnership has done a lot between Shumas and the Ministry of Secondary Education.
The partnership between the two dates as far back as 2013 and has resulted in the construction of hundreds of classrooms, toilet blocks and hand-washing facilities to provide conducive learning environment in schools across the country. The humanitarian and development-driven NGO has also provided scholarships to close to 1,000 students and installed renewable solar panels, which have eased the introduction of ICT learning in schools. The Minister of Secondary Education, Dr. Pauline Nalova Lyonga, has welcomed his contributions, which have created huge positive impacts.
Disgruntled PhD holders who were on a sit-down strike at the courtyard of the Ministry of Higher Education have called off the protest. This was during negotiations with the Minister of Higher Education, Professor Jacques Famindongo, wherein it was disclosed that the President has ordered the recruitment of 250 more PhD lecturers in the state universities. Details with Kwanchua Marie Cledo of CRTV Center.
For close to 3 weeks, some disgruntled PhD holders have been spending nights at the courtyard of the Ministry of Higher Education, protesting against some irregularities during the last recruitment of PhD holders.
When we see that we PhD, we are so many times lecturer at the university are not recruited, and those who have masters have been recruited, it makes us seem that we are the children of nobody in this Cameroon.
The Minister of State, Minister of Higher Education, accompanied by his close collaborators, visited the protesters to reassure them of government's resolve to look into their worries.
I want to thank to the head of state, His Excellency Paul Biya, who has prescribed this special recruitment. We are delighted by this happy end because now it is the end of the strike.
After listening to Professor Jacques Famindongo, the protesters then concluded to put an end to the strike action.
But it's just today that we have a good compromise. That compromise ensures us that our injustices are be taken in account and our problem will be resolved.
It is worth noting that the presidential decree has ordered the recruitment of about 250 PhD holders for this 2020 academic year.
Cameroonians are expecting the new code on decentralization, which was promulgated into law recently by the head of state, to be implemented this year. It is said to be revolutionary because it ceds more powers to local authorities. Analysts, however, say the immediate challenge is the mastery of the text and rules of the game. Clarice Aritakan reports.
New and salutary dynamics to enforce decentralization, yes, but for municipal authorities, getting to the expected end leaves no room for shortcuts. Should have, could have, or would have become obsolete.
We have the challenge of management. They have to well manage the resources as far as the human resources, the technical resources, and the financial resources. We cannot manage the resources without accountability. Permit to the population to ask the count to the elect body.
The development of local economic activity leading up to jobs and revenue for homes and councils is what they have to bear in mind. Taking stock of what the new code on decentralized territorial collectivities entails is thus key. Ensuring that the population have access to the most basic of services will depend on being proactive, innovative, and realistic, development experts stress. Budgetary issues will also come into play, they insist, as the local elect will be tasked with undertaking decisions and actions aimed at creating complementarity between councils and the sustainable development goals.
We should not only talk about governance without doing it. We have to put tools who can ensure the governance inside the council. And this is not only the role of council, it's the role of all the actors. Our minister, Mindevel, started to accompanying some of our council how to act program, and is now a duty for us to operationalize it.
Local council have to put in place the best policies in the way to solve problems, sanitation problems, health problems, schools problems, to build schools, to build roads.
The decentralization process has been given an overhaul with a new code, analysts admit. They, however, maintain that for the local elect, the work to make hay while the sun shines is only just getting started.
Appeasement will be one of Cameroon's priorities this year to avoid the kind of political turmoil that almost tore the country apart with the advent of multi-party politics in 1990. Since then, the president has opted for the democracy of appeasement through power sharing. In the report that follows, Killian Dandifon explores new elements of appeasement that are needed for a peace and stable Cameroon.
The policy of appeasement that calmed down political tension in Cameroon in the 1990s, according to political actors and analysts, is still valid today to bring back peace and stability.
Power sharing, listening to one another, dialogue. When you speak, I should listen. When I talk, you should listen to me, to take into account to what I have to say.
The talking and listening has to be sincere.
Talking without prejudices, without bias, without hatred.
This political analyst underline is not synonymous to compromising with those who disrespect Republican institutions.
Some political actors don't want to accept the rules of democracy game, the rule of electoral games, and they don't want to accept the result. They put themselves in some procedure of contestation of elections result, and that makes that they don't want to accept the institutions which are in place.
The return to peace is a collective responsibility.
It's not targeted to a specific politician. In the book I wrote, Cameroon, Living Together, a Compelling Need, is an appeal open to religious authorities, political authorities, to calm their heart if they want peace to come back in this country.
Appeasement once worked to maintain peace in Cameroon. Reinforcing the current concessional peace efforts will also help in today's socio-political and security hiccups the country is faced with.
The year 2020 is considered as a year of great challenges for the National Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Committee. After achieving encouraging results in its first year of activities, the committee now has the challenge of accelerating its activities in the field. Ebenezer Kanga.
Created on November 30, 2018, the National Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Committee has as mission to organize, supervise, and manage ex-combatants of Boko Haram in the Far North region and separatists in the Northwest and Southwest regions who wish to lay down their arms. According to the national coordinator of the committee, results achieved after 1 year of activities are very encouraging. The two regional disarmament centers in Buea and Bamenda have received more than 150 ex-fighters, while the one in Mora has received some 122 ex-combatants. After 1 year of work, the structure has resettled into active normal life 68 ex-fighters who have been de-radicalized and trained in the Buea and Bamenda centers. In the meantime, the reintegration of ex-fighters into the society has started. With the encouraging results which have been achieved, 2020 is considered as a year of great challenges for the National Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Committee as the structure plans to accelerate its activities in the field. Officials of the committee say they expect the activities to blossom in 2020 in the Northwest and Southwest regions. A boom in the activities will require that enough structures be provided to accommodate a possible influx of ex-fighters.
Let's move on to the series on personal development, and we are today focusing on political coaching. It is an emerging specialty in the country, and Cameroonian politicians need to learn if they want to have a breakthrough. In the last of a series, Beatrice Gum says the political coach helps the political figure to build his public image and communication skills.
Born out of the need to support public leaders keep their original vision for public service alive, this is the practice and art of political leadership coaching.
Many political figures, when they are pushed with a coach, you love them without knowing the reason. This is the work of the coach.
Political coaches are not strategists, nor pollsters or consultants. Their focus is on developing the politician's personal leadership style.
You have to know how to express an idea, even the physical appearance. You have to be coached on it. The way of smiling, because you cannot come and laugh at this aura. It's called charisma.
Political coaches also work with their clients on a cultural approach.
Take the example of Cameroon. You can't go to with suit to present yourself at your village and see the people and tell them to vote for you. No, you come down to their level and speak with their language, and then you will win their hearts.
A one-on-one relationship with a political candidate that helps them during their tenure in public service.
Anthony Robbins is the one who have coached Bill Clinton, Lady Diana, Nelson Mandela. Even they are dead, they're still loving them. When you are coaching this kind of people and you have this kind of results, it's so amazing.
Thus, it's not only about winning their next election, but also about their public appearance.
2 books have been presented to the media today in the nation's capital by the former governor of the Northwest region, Abaka Ahmad, a Soville administrator, and the other side of the picture, X-ray corruption, issues of governance and challenges of civil administrators in the country. Victor Siga reports that the other side of the picture is a revised edition.
The other side of the picture is a 203-page book written by Abaka Ahmad on the social realities of the administrations of Cameroon.
The administration had problems inside or let's say behind the curtains. And for the last one, which is talking about the servile administrator, I am inviting the civil administrator to continue being administrative officers and be far from what we call empty administrators.
The author highlights the ills that ruin the governance of a country, such as favoritism, poor enforcement of general rules and regulations of public service, and the cynical intra-regional balance between political elite. He equally proposes solutions to these issues, among which the depoliticization of the administrations.
Solutions are in the books. It is only to respect and to apply the regulations. If everybody is abiding the law, I think that everything will be going very smoothly.
Abaka Ahmad is a retired administrator who has decided to share his rich experience and expertise with the youth destined for a career in the public service.
The Volleyball Lions of Cameroon have made a second unsuccessful outing in the qualifying tournament for the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. The volleyball national team was humbled this afternoon by the Algerian selection 3-0 in the qualifying tournament unfolding in Cairo, Egypt. Baongo Francis now gives us the highlights of that encounter.
After a poor start in the qualifying tournament for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics with a 3-0 spanking by Tunisia, the Volleyball Lions knew they had to step up their game in the second confrontation against Algeria. But having the will and manifesting it on the pitch of play are two different things. The boys of coach Blaise Bayam in the first set were dominated all through by Algeria, who won it by 25 points to 16. After some briefings, the Volleyball Lions raced to the net once again in the second set, but still unable to contain the brilliant services and powerful smashes of the tall Algerians. The low method of Team Cameroon provided the same poor result as Algeria grabbed the second set 25-16. In the third set, the Algerians continued in their dominating attitude, with the Volleyball Lions always trying to come back to meet a scoreline they never succeeded to equal. Creating point margins ranging between 2 to 8 points, Algeria finally urged Cameroon in this last set 25-17. A real disaster for the Volleyball Lions, who went with high hopes in this tournament.
They used very tough service, but we didn't adapt our defense into that, and that is why we have lost today.
The deception is unbearable, for their female counterparts have equally been booted out of the 2020 Tokyo Olympics race. The Volleyball Lions will have to rekindle winning ways when they clash with Egypt this Saturday.
That ends the 7:30 news on CRTV. The next news is coming up in the French language with Adel Mbala at 8:30. And tomorrow will be in the company of Gladys Tata. I am Moki Edwin Kinzren Yaoundé. Thank you for watching.